I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years now. When we first got together, everything was pretty much perfect, or so I thought. Lisa was beautiful, confident, a bit bitchy sometimes, but in that way that was almost charming. She could be a real handful, but I loved her anyway. We had our routines, our jokes, and I genuinely believed we were solid. Or at least, I did until the last couple of months. Lately, she'd started acting weird. Little things at first, missing phones, late nights at her sister, a sudden shift in her attitude. She'd snap at me over stupid stuff or just ignore me altogether, which was unusual. I figured maybe work stress, or maybe I was just overthinking it. But then came the signs I couldn't ignore anymore. She'd get calls and texts I'd never see, and she'd hide her phone when I came around. She'd also become more secretive about her whereabouts, always saying she was with her friends or her mother, but her stories didn't add up. I remember one evening, I was about to leave for work, when I noticed her phone buzzing on the table. She was in the bathroom and I couldn't resist. I picked up her phone just to see who was messaging her at 2 a.m. and everything changed in that second. The message preview said something like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and there was a picture attached. I didn't recognize the guy, but the way Lisa was smiling in that selfie, like she was having the best time ever, it hit me like a punch in the gut. That wasn't some innocent friend. That was someone she was hiding from me. I froze, my heart pounding. I was ready to confront her, but I figured I'd better get more evidence first. I started digging through her texts, her photos, anything I could find. That's when I saw it. A hotel room selfie, Lisa in bed, half naked with that same guy. They had taken pictures of themselves, and I swear I saw enough to tell that they had sex. The way she was lying there, her hair messy, lips red from some kind of lipstick, she looked genuinely happy. But what sealed the deal was the date and time stamp on the photo. It was from that very night, our anniversary. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wife, the woman I trusted with everything, was cheating on me with my best friend, Jason. I'd always known she was a bit bitchy, somewhat manipulative, but I never thought she'd go this far. It was like my entire world crumbled in that moment. I didn't even know how to process it. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, trying not to vomit, trying not to cry, and trying to figure out what the hell to do next. I wasn't even angry at first, I was just numb. Just stunned that someone I loved so much could be capable of this kind of betrayal, and with someone so close to me. That's when I knew I couldn't keep quiet. I had to confront her. But I didn't want to do it right away. I needed to gather my thoughts, plan my move. I was furious, hurt, embarrassed, and completely lost. I'd never faced something this raw before, and I knew deep inside that nothing would be the same after this. So I waited a few days, trying to figure out the best way to handle this whole mess. Honestly, I was in shock and didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was there, clear as day. I kept replaying the photos and texts in my head, trying to find some explanation that might make sense. But there was none. Lisa was doing her best to act normal, of course. She'd brush off my questions, give me those fake smiles, and tell me I was overthinking, or that I was paranoid. Yeah, right. Paranoid enough to check her phone and stumble onto her cheating, but not paranoid enough to know she was lying through her teeth. One night I decided I'd had enough. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when I knew what she was up to. I came home early from work, something I rarely did, and I just waited in the living room. She came in around 8 p.m., acting like everything was normal, and I swear her face was the picture of innocence. Until she saw me sitting there staring at her like I'd seen a ghost. "Lisa," I said quietly but coldly, "we need to talk, now." She froze, her eyes flickering with that fake bitchy smile that I'd come to hate. "What are you talking about, Mike? I'm tired, can't we just forget about this?" "No," I said, "I saw everything, the selfies, the hotel room, the texts. Don't lie to me anymore. Tell me what the hell is going on." Her face changed then, instant defensiveness, like she'd been caught in a lie but was trying to cover it up. "You're crazy. You must have hacked my phone or something. I don't know what you're talking about." I shook my head. "No, Lisa. I didn't hack anything, I just looked. I saw the pictures, the messages, the hotel room. You're cheating on me with Jason, my best friend." Her eyes widened and she blinked like she was surprised I found out. But then she scoffed and threw her head back. "Oh, please, Mike, you're overreacting. It was just sex. It doesn't mean anything. We're both adults, right? It's not like I wanted to end things with you or anything. It was just a fling, a mistake, whatever you want to call it." I felt my blood boiling, the way she said it, like it was some casual thing, a stupid mistake she'd do again if she felt like it. That's when I finally snapped. I told her she was a lying bitch, that she had no idea how much she'd hurt me, that I was done pretending she was innocent, that I'd had enough of her bullshit. I told her I didn't want to see her face anymore and that I was going to pack her stuff and get the hell out of my house. She looked furious, but she also looked like she took pride in her lies. "You're just jealous," she spat. "Jason and we were bored and it happened. It doesn't have to ruin everything. I still love you, Mike, I swear. I don't know, I messed up." That's when I realized I couldn't believe a word she said. I saw her for what she was, an arrogant, manipulative bitch who thought she could lie her way out of anything. I told her she was done, that she'd lost me forever, and that I wanted her out of the house by the weekend. The next few days were a whirlwind. I kept thinking about everything, the good times, the betrayal, the way she lied so effortlessly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smug expression she put on when she thought she was getting away with it. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I felt like I'd been punched repeatedly in the gut. And then I started planning my revenge, because I wasn't going to let her walk away without consequences. No way. If she thought she could cheat and lie her way through this, she had another thing coming. I had some tricks up my sleeve, and I was going to make sure she paid for what she did. That's where I started to think about how I could turn the tables, how I could make her regret every single lie, every moment she thought she was untouchable. But I'll get into that part next. After I kicked her out, I felt a strange mix of relief and rage. Part of me wanted to just forget her, move on, start over. But the other part kept reminding me what she did, how she betrayed not just me but my trust with someone I considered a brother. Jason. That bastard was just as guilty. I couldn't believe I'd been blind for so long, letting him get so close to my wife. And now I was left with this burning desire for payback. I started to dig deeper into their relationship, figuring out what I could do to make her realize the pain she caused me. I wasn't interested in petty revenge or public shaming. I wanted her to feel the same hurt I did. The first step was to gather more evidence, but I had to be smart about it. I didn't want her to suspect I was onto her, so I stayed quiet, watching her every move. I knew she'd try to spin her lies, so I kept an eye on her social media, her messages, anything that might give me leverage. One night I found an email she sent to Jason, an invite, a plan for their next secret meetup. That was enough for me. I wanted to see where she was going, who she was seeing, how deep this rabbit hole went. I also found some receipts from a hotel she'd booked a week later, under a false name, with a little note attached. "Can't wait to see you again, babe." While she thought she was hiding everything, she'd left a trail I could use. I decided I'd turn her own game against her. I wasn't going to confront her just yet. I wanted to make her think I didn't know. That's when I started to plan my revenge. I knew I could do something sneaky, something that would hit her where it hurts, in her pride and her reputation. I reached out to a few people, some private investigators I found online, just to get some background on her latest whereabouts. The more I learned, the more furious I got. She was out there, living her best lie, while I was left picking up the pieces. I also planted some fake messages on her phone, making it look like I was planning to meet up with Jason. I figured if she got nervous and slipped up, I'd be ready. My plan was to make her believe I was onto her, but I had to be careful. I wanted her to feel the guilt, the betrayal, without suspecting I was orchestrating this all behind the scenes. Every step I took was calculated. I started leaving little clues, an anonymous tip to her boss about her frequent absences, a fake social media profile that would hint at my discovery. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, like her carefully crafted lies were falling apart. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of sadness, too. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about the loss of the life I thought I had. I kept wondering if I'd ever be able to trust again, if I'd ever feel safe in a relationship. But right now, all I could focus on was making her pay. That's when I realized I'd need to be patient, sneaky, and relentless if I wanted her to suffer. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that betrayers often think they're untouchable until they're caught in the act. The waiting was the hardest part. Every day, I felt like I was walking on a razor's edge. I kept telling myself I needed a plan, something that would make her regret what she'd done without making things worse. I didn't want to go full psycho, but I also wasn't about to let her get away with this. My mind kept racing, trying to come up with the perfect way to turn the tables. I knew she was bitchy enough to deny everything, even when faced with proof, so I had to be clever. One night I decided to go all in. I set up a fake social media account, a burner profile with a generic name and no real info. I used it to send her a message, something casual, flirty, just enough to get her attention. I wanted her to think I'd moved on, that I was okay with her screwing around. And it worked. She responded within minutes, trying to play it cool, saying she missed me and wanted to meet up again. And that's when I knew she was slipping. I kept the conversation going, pushing just enough to make her think I was interested in her again. She kept talking, spilling more lies, trying to convince herself she was in control. Meanwhile, I was recording every message, every word she typed. I had her right where I wanted her. Her ego was getting bigger, but I knew she was just desperate, trying to save face. She had no idea I was onto her, and I loved how vulnerable she was starting to look. Next, I called her bluff. I told her I knew about her and Jason, that I had proof. I sent her a screenshot of the hotel reservation, the selfies, everything. Her response was classic: denial, denial, denial. She called me paranoid, crazy, and said I was just jealous because I wasn't satisfying her anymore. That hurt more than I expected. I'd always tried to be a good husband, and here she was, throwing it all away for some guy who was probably as much a liar as she was. But I didn't want to just confront her and blow everything up all at once. I wanted her to feel the weight of her lies slowly, painfully. That night I sent her a message saying, "I know everything, you're done." I wanted her to believe I was about to cut her out completely. And she did. She started panicking a little, trying to spin her stories, but I knew she was just trying to save herself. From there, I decided I'd escalate things even more. I contacted Jason, my so-called best friend, and told him I knew exactly what he'd done. I told him I had proof, and if he didn't want to end up with a ruined reputation, he'd bet her back off. I didn't give him a chance to explain or deny. I just told him this was the end of our friendship if he kept messing around. That was the ultimate betrayal, and I was about to make sure they both paid for it. All this was just the beginning. I knew they thought they were clever, sneaking around behind my back, but I was about to make their little secret blow up in their faces. I was tired of being the fool, of giving her the benefit of the doubt. Now, I wanted her to feel what betrayal truly meant. The game was on, and I was ready to see how far I could push her until she broke. The next few days were a blur of planning and waiting. I kept everything to myself, watching her closely, making sure she didn't slip up. I knew she was feeling the pressure. She was acting more defensive, more frantic. I saw her pacing around, trying to delete or hide things, but I'd already covered my tracks well enough. I wanted her to feel like she was running out of options, like she was losing control. That's when I decided it was time for the final move. I went to a local hotel where she'd booked her secret rendezvous with Jason. I knew the room number, the time, everything. I booked a room right across the hall under a different false name. I brought some discreet recording equipment just to capture the moment. I wanted irrefutable proof of her betrayal, and I was prepared to broadcast it if I had to. I sat quietly in the next room, waiting for her to arrive. When she finally showed up, I saw her slip through the door, looking nervous but trying to act confident. Jason was with her, and they looked like a couple of kids sneaking around. They didn't notice me at first, but when she saw the door open, she froze. Her face went pale, every lie she'd been spinning collapsing in that instant. Jason looked surprised too, but I saw that guilty glint in his eyes. I pressed record and I sat back, letting everything unfold. They went inside, and I overheard snippets of their conversation through the wall. They were giggling, whispering about how they'd pull this off, how they'd keep lying. Lisa kept saying how she couldn't believe she'd gotten caught, but she didn't seem to mind. In fact, she looked almost relieved, like she'd been waiting for this moment. Jason nervously kept trying to reassure her that everything would be fine, that we'd all forget about it, but I knew better. I stayed there for about an hour recording everything, every laugh, every whisper, every lie. When they finally left, I followed them from a distance, making sure I had more evidence. I snapped some photos of them getting into the car, both looking guilty as hell. Then I went home, feeling a weird relief mixed with rage. I'd caught her red-handed, and I had everything I needed to end this nightmare once and for all. That night, I sat her down for what I thought would be the big confrontation. I told her I had recorded her, that I knew everything, from the hotel room to the texts, everything. Her face turned to stone, but she tried the same old bullshit, denying, lying, saying it was just a mistake, that she loved me. That I was jealous, insecure, whatever she could think of to save herself, but I wasn't having it anymore. I pulled out the recordings, the photos, everything. I told her. She'd lost my trust forever, and I was done playing her game. She looked stunned, then furious. She started yelling, calling me crazy, trying to manipulate her way out of it, but I'd had enough. Her lies couldn't hide the truth anymore. I told her she needed to pack her things and leave permanently, that I'd never forgive her, that she'd ruined everything. And for the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of clarity, like I'd finally taken control of my life again. I knew that I'd never forget what she did, but I also knew I'd survive. The pain was real, but so was my resolve to move on. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. I moved out, packed up her things, and watched her walk out the door with that same bitchy smirk, trying to act like everything was still okay. But I knew better. She'd lost her grip on me, and honestly, I felt more alive than I had in years. The house felt empty, quiet, but I felt a strange sense of liberation. For so long, I'd been living in her shadow, trying to fix things, hoping she'd change, but she never would. Her lies, her betrayal, they were the final nail in the coffin. I spent some time reflecting on everything. How naive I'd been to trust someone like her, someone who could cheat so blatantly, lie so easily, and throw everything away just for some quick sex. And Jason, that bastard, my supposed best friend. I realized that friendship, that loyalty, was a joke. He used to be someone I confided in, and now I saw him for what he really was, another snake. They were both so confident in their lies, so sure I'd never find out, but I did. And that's what hurts the most, knowing how much I'd been played. In the end, I decided to focus on myself. I got some therapy, worked on rebuilding my confidence, and started to put the pieces of my life back together. It's not easy, and I won't pretend I've moved past everything overnight. But I've learned a lot from this experience, about trust, betrayal, and the importance of listening to my gut. I'm not bitter anymore, I'm just wiser. Looking back, I realize that sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to really see what you're made of. I was lucky I caught her when I did, but I also know I can survive anything. Yeah, I was hurt, devastated even. But now I see it as a lesson. Never again will I ignore the signs. Never again will I let someone betray me without fighting back. That woman, Lisa, and her lying, cheating ways taught me that I deserve more. I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect. So, to anyone out there going through something similar, just remember, don't ignore the signs. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And when you find out the truth, don't be afraid to take control of your life again. It's hard, it's painful, but in the end, you come out stronger. Trust me, you will.